welcome back to MyArtCube. Today I would like to talk about a review of the Royal Talens Varnish for oil pastels. And if I can get that to focus in here for you. So this is a varnish made just for oil pastels, and it doesn't want to focus though. Here we go. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, this is just for oil pastel paintings. It's a 75 milliliter or 2.5 fluid ounce bottle. It's made in the Netherlands, and it's a glass bottle. And you can see I've used some of it already. I've done some other varnishes on my oil pastel paintings. I'm about to do this one painting that I've done in oil pastels. This was done in the Montmartre Extra Soft Oil Pastels, and I did a review of that. If you want to check that video out, I'll link it at the end of this video. But for now, I would just like to demonstrate how I use this varnish for oil pastels by Royal Talens to seal in my oil pastel work. Now, the nice thing about this oil pastel varnish is that it dries fairly non-tacky. So you can get a pretty good coat on there. You want a nice even coat, as thin as possible, but not too thin, just so where it covers all the oil pastel work. But once you do that, I think this would be appropriate to use in sketchbooks as well. So that means you wouldn't have to put glassine paper between your sketchbook pages to protect them from smearing and rubbing. You could just varnish it in this varnish, and you would have sealed pages. So you could have the pages close on each other and nothing would really stick or transfer. So that might be a really good use for this as well. But right now I'm just using it to make framing easier and to really seal in the work for my oil pastel paintings. Because oil pastels, let's face it, they are notoriously difficult to seal. They never really dry, so finding an appropriate varnish for them is kind of a difficult task. But this is made just for that, and I've used it on several other paintings already and had good results. So let me show you this one. I varnished this one earlier today, and it dried in about half hour, 35 minutes or less. Dried to the touch, and it does have a sheen, but the colors didn't really shift, and it didn't dissolve my oil pastels when I applied it. So it didn't smear or dissolve the oil pastels into each other, which is good news. So, and you can see I can touch this. It's not tacky. It doesn't stick really. It just has kind of a glossy feel to it. And so yeah. So I'm going to now try that on a painting where I have applied much thicker texture. So if something's going to give me trouble, it's going to be this painting. Now this painting, like I said, is going to be the demonstration that was done for Montmartre's Extra Soft Oil Pastels. I'll link that at the end of this video. But this is a Paul Signac remake, sort of, master study that I did. And I'm also considering selling this work if you're interested. So please let me know if you're interested in buying this. But yeah, I'd just like to seal it, and if it's going to have trouble sealing anything, it's going to have trouble sealing this one. Because let me show you, the texture of the oil pastels application is just super thick on this one. You can kind of see it. I think it's hard to pick up on the camera, the texture, but I really applied a thick amount of oil pastels to this. So let's go ahead and get sealing. I already dipped this brush in some clean water and dried it off with a paper towel, just so it would be lightly dampened when I dip it into the varnish. This is a Master's Touch Flat, size 10, and this fits into the bottle. But if I didn't want to put it directly in the bottle, I would probably use pastel paper, not pastel paper, I'm sorry, but I would use palette paper and just pour some of this onto it and use a larger brush for larger pieces of work to varnish those into place. But let's go ahead and start varnishing this one. This is a little nerve-wracking because this one is a thicker, like I said, this has a lot of texture to it. So as I varnish, I'm going to have to be a little more careful with this one. So I'm going to go at a very flat angle. I'm going to go kind of parallel to the paper and do downward strokes to varnish this. And occasionally I might take the brush and clean it off on the paper towel. You'll see me do that every so often in case there's little bits it's picking up, like these little bits at the bottom here. It's picking up. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer that over because I don't want that to stay on my painting. And I'm going to go ahead and just keep dipping. I probably went too high on the brush with that. And transferring onto the paper and taking any loose bits off the end here. So I'm not seeing a lot of problems yet. I am seeing some puddling here, so I'm gonna pick that up, that excess up, and move that off. Okay, so far so good. Nothing too problematic happening here. Let me get this in the frame. This does dry fairly quickly, so you want to keep a good pace going when you're varnishing with this. And I'm using a generous amount on this one because there is so much texture to this painting. And I just don't want to risk picking up and moving any of the smaller bits because this does have a lot of texture to it, like I said. So let's just keep going. And I'm going to have to angle this a little bit so I can see where I've applied the varnish. So the light hits it. And I'm having to go in with more varnish on this one because this has, like I said, it's a lot of application of oil pastel. So I'm going a little heavier with the varnish. But yeah, and now I made a puddle here, so I'm going to spread that out. Make sure it covers and coats as it goes. Okay. Went too high on the brush again. And this is kind of a challenge because it's hard to see the application and keep this in the camera frame. But yeah, if you want instructions on how to use this varnish, it's not on the bottle, so just a heads up about that. They do refer you to the website, but I have not checked myself. I just figured I'd treat it like acrylic varnish and pre-wet my brush and just dry it off with a paper towel gently and then start applying the varnish to the painting. Okay. Yeah, this is using a lot of varnish compared to the other paintings I did earlier because, like I said, this is real bumpy and lumpy because how much oil pastels I layered on here. So how layered your oil pastels are will determine probably how much of this you use. Let's see, I've got some bits I want to get rid of here that are sticking. So just keep a paper towel handy if you need to clean off your brush a little bit, but it's really not transferring anything to the brush for the most part, and it's not supposed to, so that's good news. So the color is staying on there mostly. I see a little bit of transference. I see a little bit of that happening, but not a lot. Oops, I just dripped some onto the other section. So I'm being very generous with this particular painting just because the way I did this. Okay. All right, so we're getting through it here. And it's getting done. A little bit of my green is coming up, just a tiny bit. So I am occasionally cleaning off the brush to make sure I don't smear that everywhere all over the other colors. But otherwise, it's doing a good job. Okay. I think we're coming along here. Just trying to get some of the excess off of here because I don't want it that thick of a layer. Get that little speck off there. Anywhere there's a little transference of specks, because like I said, this had so much layering and so much texture to it that it will happen. It's inevitable. I'm just cleaning those off with the brush real quick. So let me just clean this up a little bit. And all right, I think that's pretty much it. And then I'm going to let this dry after I just clean it up a little. No, that's not a speck, that's intentional. Okay, so I've made a little bit of a mess, but there you can see the final product, and it looks pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna put my brush in the water to clean it off. That is my dedicated varnish brush. I will not use a different brush for this, or any brush I do use for this varnish I won't use for regular paints. So I think it works great. This is my review for Royal Talens Varnish for Oil Pastels, and you can get this at Blick's art supply materials online or at a local Blick store possibly. You want to check to see if they have it in stock before going probably, but you can also get this off Amazon. Blick sells this through Amazon, and I've also seen it offered on Walmart.com, probably again as a third-party seller. So yeah, so I think this product is awesome. It works really well. It even worked for this real thick application of oil pastels, and it's going to take about half an hour to dry to the touch. I'm just checking right now for puddles. I don't see any significant puddling, so I didn't over apply it, which is good. And if you wanted to do a second application and just do thinner applications, you could do that. Just let them dry in between. So let them dry for at least, I think, an hour probably between applications would be a solid idea. But here's the final result when they're dry. Like I said, low tack to no tack. And a nice little sheen on there, but the depth of color is slightly improved, if anything. So it may have darkened it a tiny bit, but otherwise the color is pretty true to what the oil pastels were originally. So it didn't alter the colors a lot. It just sort of made it seem a little bit deeper. So it might have done a tiny bit of darkening of the colors, but not much. So I really like this product, this varnish by Talens. I think it's a worthy investment, especially if you're using oil pastels and you want to use them in a book, like a notebook or a sketchbook, a watercolor sketchbook or something like that. I think this would be great for sealing mixed media pieces. Oil pastels it could possibly work on other mediums. It may or may not dissolve watercolors. I don't know. So you would have to test that. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial and review. And if you found any value in it, please just go ahead and subscribe, give a thumbs up to like the video, and hit the bell notification for updates on when I put out new videos. But yeah, I hope you had a good time. I hope this was informative for you. Now, there is another option I just want to make you aware of real quick, and that is Sennelier's. I know of Sennelier's Oil Pastel Fixative, which is a spray, but I don't want to deal with aerosol sprays like that, with chemical sprays, so I've chosen this instead, and I think this is doing a good job. So that's my review. I will see you in the next one, guys. Stay creative. Have a great day.